p.m. We'll start with the roll call.
Also Norman.
Aaron Brewster,
Colleen Hodges.
Alex Berardo for staff.
Mick Longo.
Norma Smith. Has everyone read the minutes for August 8th?
Mhm.
Any additions or corrections?
I had no comments. Maybe more.
The only question I had was it talked about items in storage. Most of the items in the HPC's existing storage, is that HPC's or is that Coventry Historical?
Coventry Historical.
So that probably needs to be changed.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes for August 8th with the one change, changing HBC to Coventry Historical. I'll second that one.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next is election of officers. That was done initially when it first started, and it's never been done since.
One of the things that came up
Yes.
as we've been going through the ordinance, our
Yes.
enabling documents, that it's supposed to be done annually, and those three positions, chair, vice chair, and secretary,
Yeah.
are the three that are on the books to be filled.
Okay,
I don't know, for whatever it's worth, it's one of the few things it says we're supposed to do, so we
yeah,
might
it
as well.
just, things have changed since it started and we just never did it.
So I have a question then. These named positions, do they coincide with the tenure of each person?
There's no, it doesn't
It
say
doesn't coordinate
anything,
with that?
no, it doesn't say anything like they need to be staggered, it doesn't say how long, it's just that there's annual elections.
Okay.
So I think it's just every year, and I don't know that it even. Other boards, there's no set time of the year, it's not like elections must happen at the January meeting or
Mhm.
Okay,
anything.
so we're doing it tonight.
So we'll just remember, I guess, for
Next
next year,
September,
yeah,
so it would
September's
be
when
a
we
year.
start.
Okay. So does anybody want to make nominations for chair?
I
Start
guess,
with nominations.
I've seen in times, at different times, people sometimes will say, I'd like to propose a slate, but I'm not familiar enough with how this works.
I know
So
you-
let's just do it as,
Okay.
one at a time as they
Make
show
it
up on the
simple.
agenda.
I guess.
Yeah, it's gonna be painful that way,
Make it simple.
we've gotta, drag it out,
Can I-
nominate this for this, and then you.
Is it what the secretary does?
Volunteer.
I know, I think secretary, well, I think basically it's like. What it comes down to is pretty much, if the chair were not in,
The vice.
vice chair is second
Okay,
in command and
get
fills
that.
in, and if neither's in, then the secretary,
So the
serves as
secretary.
chair.
Do they take notes?
No, because he does it.
I mean, effectively, if you have staff, yeah,
That's
then,
probably why it
You're
was never
recording it
done.
and you make the notes, so.
Did the previous planning staff person operate as the secretary or?
No,
No.
because we had a
We
person
had a
that
paid
they
person
paid
from
to
Oh,
take all the
DPW.
notes.
All right.
So,
who came
I
up
mean,
with the notes.
yeah, we have a minute taker now as well.
Mm.
Suppose if we had to send out a letter or thank you note, or I don't know, I'm grasping.
I don't think, thinking about like the planning commission, the other boards we staff, they have people who are secretary, but they
They don't do anything.
I mean, if you have a staff person from the department staffing your board, like effectively, that's who does that kind of
Exactly.
work,
It's
So-
not in the ordinance either, like the duties of?
I wonder if it is, do you have a copy of it there?
Yeah.
I think it's like, it may say something like just, chair presides over.
Okay, yeah, here we go. So, chair presides over, vice chair shall in case of absence. Usually public, the secretary shall keep a record of all resolutions, proceedings, finding of fact, decisions and actions, and such record shall be on file for public view at the office of the clerk.
So that's, and that's
That's
basically done by staff.
Right.
If we were seeing, applications coming in, we would be making folders for them, they'd be residing, one of these cabinets would have them. If somebody came in, they'd be coming to the front desk, we're here, we would be there answering them. So, yeah, it is, I guess, in practice, this is really just like, what's the order of succession for who's the person who opens meetings and stuff? So,
let's proceed.
I guess so. So I guess we'll do this as like. You make a nomination, then. You I'm trying to remember, it's so rare that I even see this.
Is it a nomination or someone volunteers? And if they're unopposed,
can
then it's-
nominate
I think
yourself.
it's yeah, I
You can
think
nominate
that
yourself,
generally the
definitely.
chair asks, does anybody have nominations? I think somebody else could nominate the chair to like, refill their position. But I think you take a vote first to close nominations, and then you do a separate vote to actually fill the position, once you know who's nominated.
Okay, so if anybody wants any of those three positions, speak now, nominate
Remember, hold your
yourself,
peace.
or for, well, at least for a year.
I'm saying, yeah,
Um,
we'll ask for each one since it's a separate
Right.
item. I don't,
So as far as chair,
Yeah.
I nominate Norma. You continue as chair.
okay.
Is that the
I
way to
think-
go?
Yeah, or maybe Norma, do you want to be the one to first sit, it's so
You want
formal.
to do it?
Can you have- say like,
I'm doing it, it just, I've been in it longer, but that shouldn't be the requirement.
no, then it doesn't need to be, I mean, if
Yeah.
you wanted to nominate someone else, but you can just say, do we have any nominations
Do we have
for?
any nominations for chair?
Yeah, and Nick is,
I
yeah,
We
nominated.
nominate
Yeah,
Norma.
I nominate
Any
Norma.
others?
Nominate Norma.
Aaron?
We nominate Norma.
Okay, vice chair?
I nominate Nick. I give up my position.
Wait a minute.
You're not going anywhere, are you?
No,
No,
Okay.
you just. Any nominations other than Nick?
I'm an alternate, so I don't even know that I
I don't,
fit
yeah,
into that. I just
yeah, I'm
have
not
to,
even sure that you would have an official vote on this sort of thing.
if Marina's not here, I can, but if she's here, I can't.
Any nomination for secretary?
Hey, Aaron,
nominate Eileen.
no, I'm an alternate. I'm not really,
Oh,
I don't think I
okay,
can
you're
do
an
that.
alternate. Okay, you can't do it then.
I guess Aaron.
Aaron then.
So I'll just say, being secretary sounds like they have the hardest job in that thing, so if it ever ended up that we weren't having someone take the notes and write up the thing, secretary is the worst position on.
Resign,
Don't worry.
resign.
No, I don't.
It's fine.
Don't
Cross
know.
that bridge if we get there.
Yeah.
Any other nominations? Maureen isn't here, we can't we could nominate her.
And
And
that's-
we'd love that, but,
I don't think that's a good idea.
Guess what, Maureen?
So,
I guess first, let's, have a vote to close nominations formally.
okay. Is it close or a nomination?
To close,
Motion,
Have a-
motion.
yeah,
a
motion
motion
to
to
close
close
the
it.
Can I
nomination
have a
period.
motion to
I'll
close
make a
the
motion to close the
nominations?
nominations.
Second. Second,
I will second.
all in favor,
Aye.
opposed? Okay. So now we do election. Or is this,
Yeah. We would now closing nominations. So I think at this point we do, and let's do an individual vote for each,
okay,
just to be on the safe side and thorough. But yeah, this is a vote to confirm this, nominated person for this position.
Was it a
Okay.
secret vote?
No, I think we do it on the
we
record.
will go
Don't
in a
think that's
different
gonna be
corner,
necessary.
yeah. All right,
Right on
so,
piece of paper.
vote on Norm Smith as chair, all in favor,
Aye.
opposed?
Should it be, if somebody makes a motion and then,
Oh,
yeah, and then
Oh.
seconds, then we do I.
I'll make a
them-
motion to nominate,
no, to elect.
no, to elect Norma
I'll second that.
chairman.
All in favor,
Uh,
opposed? Nominate,
Sorry.
nominate, yeah. I mean.
I need a
I guess
motion
I
to elect.
Making a motion to
Make a
elect,
motion to elect Nick as co-chair. Second.
Second that.
second, all in favor,
Aye.
opposed? And a motion for secretary,
Make a motion to nominate, no, I'm sorry, to elect Aaron as secretary with all the duties they are attending.
You just had to add that.
as per section. I second that motion.
all in favor,
Aye.
opposed? Okay,
Great.
so now we move on,
Congratulations to all thus elected.
thank you, we're so excited.
it's another small step towards,
Well, like I said, it hasn't happened since
Formalization.
the very first
yeah,
meeting. And then it's changed and nobody knew what was going on.
Well, and then if somebody drops out and then
It changed.
town
things.
council has to appoint somebody new.
Yeah.
And then,
It changes,
exactly. It gets confusing.
mhm.
changes.
No time like the present to, I guess,
There
set,
you go, set precedent.
yep, set it now.
Okay, status on the CLG grant.
You wanna go first, Sarah?
Sure. So this is second quarter report. It's pretty short. So this covers from, March through July. Master price agreement process was used to solicit consultants. 5 vendors on the list met the grant criteria as valid consultants. Solicitation emails went out on June 25th with a 2-week period of performance to return interest. The results of that is after this date, so it'll go on the next report, which was that we didn't get any responses back. Section 2 is your project proceeding on schedule. If not, please explain. The project, oh, let's see, I did 2 capitals there. The project is not on schedule. Further below schedule, the town of Coventry should already have a consultant under contract. As bids have just been solicited on June 25th, the project is currently 2 months behind, and then the schedule is below. Section 3, have there been any problems arisen for overall scope, budget, or schedule? There's no changes to scope or budget. Delay in solicitation of consultants has led to 2 months schedule variance. They may send this back and say, what are you doing about it? And then we'll have to add more to this, but I think we should try to submit it like this.
I've been, yeah, in doing my own follow-up with the consultants, that went, and that's gonna be my next thing, to explain what I found. I've just recently been talking with them as well, so they're also current on where we are. So, yeah, I did basically try to reach out again,
Sorry,
like,
before we get into that.
yes,
Any
Oh, yeah.
comments to this?
No.
No.
themselves.
Okay, I will email this to you to get signed and then send it back to me and I'll load it to the system.
thank you, Aaron.
Okay.
And once again, yes, the right level of detail, which that is a gift, to be able to say just the right amount, in just a clear way. Yeah, so basically, my summary would be that I called up after this last meeting that we had last month. And tried to just figure out what's the deal with people who seemed somewhat, one or two asked like a single question, but then didn't really get back to me. So one of them I was able to get on the phone for a decent length conversation, and they basically indicated that, because I know at the last time there was question as to whether the nature, just working from the master price agreement was what was causing the problem. The biggest thing was that the description from back when this was first generated as a request for proposal, this was the text that I basically took out like request for proposal to mesh, or yeah, MPA, but the content was basically the same. There was a section that was talking about complete, consultant will conduct the necessary historical research and field work, complete the following sections of the National Register nomination form, and that was sections 5 through 11. That was not within the scope of the grant, so this project, because at the top it was confusing people. They basically said, if you've got that in there, then it looks like it's not just the historic resources survey, but basically taking it through to full completion. And at least they quoted it as like, that would be like a $75,000 project. So that was the main reason why we weren't getting any biters.
I'm not sure I understand that. So you're saying that they were commenting that it would be a $75,000 project if they completed the form?
To do this, the resources survey comes first, and then once you've done that survey, presumably you have the data then to put into the form. So they're saying then to do all the sections that ultimately, because I think the way he said it was, those sections are basically like 90% of the work of putting together the nomination form. That it's the cover summary, is a relatively quick thing, but that's all of like the information that backs it up.
So all it means is you take and transpose the information from the research onto the form. To me, the form actually guides the research, the way it's laid out.
Yeah, he was indicating that basically it takes, when you're putting those sections together, that's where the mental work of like what's significant about the data that was gathered gets done. So the survey does most of like the data gathering enough to say there's something here, but the actual work of explaining what's here is
And
done
why
when you
that's
fill out,
important.
is when you, start going into the sections of the nomination form. So it looks like basically that was the main problem, that why we weren't seeing like any sort of, follow up to ask like, what specifically you're looking at. Do you have much by way of, not basically no additional follow up.
So my concern with that, and I get it now, you explained it to me, so I get what you're saying as far as, and like you also said, Colleen, where you have to interpret the data and make a cogent argument as to why it should be on the register. But the thing is that the information that goes in there is, what if it's not in the research? Like, say if we just decided to fill out the form ourselves and, get together and put all our heads together and come up with the perfect argument
Mhm.
on all the sections of the form. And then we go back to the research, oh, that whole section's missing. We can't fill this part of. So to me, I thought it was like, make the person that's doing the research responsible to make sure that they got all those topics. Otherwise, they didn't
Yeah.
do their job. We don't know until we start to fill it out.
Well, no, I hear what you're saying. So my sense of it is that when they're qualified under, what is it, 36 CFR part 61. My sense was, from talking to the one person who I was able to get a hold of, is like the nature of the work, the historic resources survey, is common enough that they know what its purpose is, that this is going to be used to make a National Register nomination form. So he didn't indicate that like they needed that kind of, like, that the inclusion of this language was giving them clarity as to what sorts of data to gather. It was basically more that because it was included, they thought that it meant do the actual work. And that was when they see that, they say, okay, this is the project from start to finish. That's worth a lot more money. They're not getting that kind of money from a CLG grant. So, I'm way out of their league, never mind.
So how
So
do you correct this to
is
get it
to,
going?
I
Take
sent,
that section out.
I sent another, email out with a clarification just to say, just so that we're all clear, this is just a historic resources survey.
Mhm.
We're not asking to fill out those forms. And I did give our summer intern, who's no longer with us, who went back to school anyway. He was able to put together just a couple of basic maps. Maybe it was like properties from before 1900, just something to give them prospective vendors visual, maybe like what's the scale of the work for each village. But that also didn't turn up any bites. So in the time since, I reached out to HPHC and told them the situation. Yes, we are a couple of months behind. It looks like a combination of the fact that that language was in there and we didn't know until, I had to drag it out of one of the people as to what the problem was. But then another round with that clarified didn't work out. The other piece of it, that when I was speaking with the one who responded, he basically indicated that it's probably somewhere in the $25,000 range to do just the historic resources surveys for 3. So even with the correct information out there, the fact that we didn't get another bite, I think with the information that I'm aware of, most likely they're probably still saying they're not close enough. They're not going to be able to afford this. I'm not going to try it.
So what do we have in
So-
our budget for, 15?
15. So when I called them up, I asked, knowing where we are, we're a couple of months behind in the schedule. What does it look like on your end if we were to propose a scope amendment? Say we did just 2 villages instead of 3. If maybe that brings us close enough to the range and we cast an even wider net, maybe we get a few realistic bids at that point. Would that take so much work on your end that, we're talking like how many months after, is there still time to do it? they spoke among themselves. I guess the timing was good. They were going to
Who's
talk.
among themselves, the
This-
HP?
Yeah, the
state?
people at HPHC who run the CLG
Could they
program.
give us, I don't know if they would be willing to, but give us an example of a completed project and how much they paid for it?
Well,
Because we
I know, I would
have
have
no
been,
idea.
it would have been nice, I know. They seemed surprised as well. They basically said, oh, so, well, yeah, I don't know, I guess that really goes 25,000. So,
But to me, 15,000, you could work on it for 3 months, make 5,000 a month. And do the research, but okay,
it's,
I don't know what the prices should be either, so.
to some extent, we're new to this, so it's,
Mhm.
if we do it this way, we get bids, we see what the value is. All I know is for the one who answered, they said 3, for the range they were telling me what 3 would be. I felt like that's still too distant from what we have, but we might be able to pull off 2. Probably pretty comfortable to do 1, but you could try for 2. So, yeah, I brought it up with them. They talked among themselves. They got back to me and said that they would be amenable to letting us do 2 villages. They'd suggested Arkwright and Harris. They're
That's it.
similar,
They
yeah.
should be done
That's it.
together.
I think it makes sense.
Yeah,
If you guys think it
does.
makes sense,
It
yeah.
does.
So one other thing then, is if we're not gonna have a connection between the research and the form, and just the forms, I think there's 2. Can we at least have some way in the, request for, proposals or whatever we've called it, a way to evaluate it before we make a final payment? So we could like use the form as a checklist to make sure that we have everything that we need before they get a check. And then we start figuring out if we got everything we need for the forms.
I'm not familiar enough. I haven't, because I haven't seen this process play out before. The understanding that I had from that phone call is like when a consultant meets the professional qualifications, they know that a historic resources
Mhm.
survey is going to be used to put together a National Register nomination form, and they know
Yeah,
it's,
that's a little loose though, when you're filling out that government form. Didn't we, when we were in the initial stages of putting this proposal together, say that the vendor would, I forgot how we exactly worded it, but the vendor would give us all the information we needed to put into the form, using the form as a guideline or something. I think we tied it somehow.
So the original request for the grant was to fill out ands so that we could submit a form. Then the Rhode Island HPC said, you're not gonna get, you don't have a big enough grant to do that. We recommend the survey first.
Right, so,
We had the discussion that fine, but we want to make sure that they cover all the bases, which is why we said they have to have enough information in their survey that we can fill out sections 9 through 11 or whatever the heck it was.
yeah, okay.
Right, because I'm concerned, yes, they're experts, this is their job, they know what's required, but I'm also
Trust
concerned
but
that,
verify.
fine, give us all the paperwork, we'll spend the hours in front of a computer and organize and wordsmith. I find it
Yeah.
hard to believe that $75,000 to wordsmith some paragraphs, but I'll leave it.
Yeah.
Seems a little bit over the top.
no, I don't know. I don't have a way to know either way. All I know
I'll
is the
fill out
one that
the
I
form.
heard from said it's a lot of money.
So that's why the wording was that way in the RFP, because Nick and I are very concerned that they'll just hand us a bunch of stuff and we'll be missing half of what we need, and we'll be like, great, we'll have to go do half the research ourselves anyways.
Well, I don't
So
know. I
it's a
mean, if
deliverable,
they're,
we have to call it a deliverable. The deliverable is that they give us all the information required for all the sections in that form. Otherwise, we're gonna go pay somebody else to give us some
Well,
information.
again, that's
All the
pretty similar to
information
how
that
it's.
would be included in the.
We could-
It's the way
we
it's
could-
phrased right
we could
now.
reword it
Yeah,
so that it's still all the same stuff that needs to be in those sections, but it doesn't call out those sections.
Mhm.
Your research shall include X, Y, Z.
You
A, B,
might,
C.
I mean, you might say as well, look, seeking proposals to conduct historic resources surveys. These are intended to eventually serve to complete National Register nomination forms. Which, and maybe we even, whatever, say to them, that's, because I think the idea is basically, we would be eventually seeking future CLG grants to fund the nomination form work that comes after it. And you never know. I mean, it could be the same consultant you get for the Historic Resources Survey does it for the National Register nomination form after. I think if we got no bites because people were seeing this and seeing, they read that as it's written and say, they want us to do all that work after. Okay, that blows it to this much higher. We should probably be careful to not get too much into detail, and I know what you're saying, but
We're not
I
gonna
think
get
we should-
anybody to do it.
I
if
think we
do
should
it that
leave it
way.
at, to be clear, this is the first step towards the eventual goal of putting together National Register nomination forms. These people have professional qualifications, the nature of the work is not what confused them, at least not from the one that I spoke with. It's just that he said, the way it was phrased looked like you were saying
Give us
the
everything we
survey and
need.
then do the nomination form.
Yeah, give us everything
So-
we need to do the nomination,
Because we're,
and then we wouldn't hire them for the nomination.
it's, we're already a couple of months behind, so this time around, I think, let's cast, I'm fine to work with even though it'll take a little bit longer, the RFP process, work with a bigger list, send it out to even more potential applicants. But I think we should basically be aiming to get it right on this next one.
For the
You
two
know,
villages.
But how do you describe what the research work entails? Now, I know you said they're professionals and they've done it before, but you have to be able to describe what we're looking for.
We have, and I don't know if it was in this version or added afterwards, but there was a section that named is it in the scope? It was like,
Yeah, and we.
historic resource survey, public, Excel spreadsheet, one public presentation of work. So we did spell out what we expected of them through the historic resources
Do we
surveys.
have the final copy? Have we seen the thing that all the potential vendors are seeing?
Yeah, I believe so. It's the same language that came from the scope. And it's, it's this language, but the scope put at the top. So again, I think if based on what we know, I think probably we don't want to confuse them again. So I would suggest that we basically just have like a single sentence that says this is going to be eventually, as part of a separate project, used to complete National Register nomination forms.
Sounds like it just takes them off the hook as far as getting enough detail. And again,
Well-
I do rely on the fact that they're professionals.
And, HPHC, if they didn't say to you when they'd suggested in the first place, break it up into two pieces, if they didn't voice a clear concern, like, oh, but you've got to be careful, if you're going to do it that way, you've got to get real specific with them. I would think they probably either have done this before, or they would have flagged it if it was going to be something that needed to be done.
Can I make a comment? Is that all right? Me to speak up?
We never have anybody from the public, so.
We don't know how to behave.
It's constructive. I'm Peter Lockwood, for the record, and I was involved with the Roaring Brook Watershed Association for a number of years in the nomination process for the Hopkins Hollow Roaring Brook National Register, National Historic Register nomination. And we did that with Public Archaeology Labs. And they pretty much supported us through the whole process, and it was grant driven. And I'm also a consultant, who's recently retired as a consultant for about 34 years. And worked through a number of these type of processes, not only with public and private sector folks, but we looked at public archaeology to kind of give us some guidance about the products, the deliverables
Mhm.
we use,
Mhm.
that we would need. And that, I guess I'm saying there's a certain amount, I wouldn't call it trust, but expertise there about how to do that most efficiently. And I'm sure, HPAC would provide that kind of over the shoulder look, or if they reviewed the scope.
Mhm. And they have, right? They
Mhm.
reviewed our,
And if you add that language like, research survey, and I don't know the details of the scope, but in support of a National Register
Yeah.
Nomination,
Mhm.
then I think that would encompass it. I mean, speaking more casually, I don't think any professional consultant in the state of Rhode Island that has jobs doing historic research would skate on that, would give you a substandard product.
Right, 'cause they have a reputation, a professional reputation to uphold and,
Right.
okay, yeah.
And it is, speaking of the other side, as a consultant, And we were often limited by if a public sector or private sector client had a certain amount of money. It's like, well, you know, what kind of saddle can you put on that horse, you know?
Mhm,
You can't, you know, but you want to do something sufficient to that. So it's not disingenuous to say, well, we have this much money, what can we do? You know, say, we can do this village and that village. And they're probably, if they're local, I assume they are, or state or regional, in contact with HPAC. So,
Sure.
just I thought I'd mention that because
Yeah,
I was
no.
involved in that process out in
Thank you for that.
Hollow. It was quite successful and it went very well. When they received, when they received the nomination forms, everything was in place.
Mhm.
Right? Even though it was a stepwise grant. I mean,
Right.
first you do the field documentation. First you do kind of a survey, then you do
Yeah.
some research and documentation. That might be where the additional funds are, is, beyond the original survey, the research and documentation of that to fill out this. That's where it might inflate from, which is 15 to
Mhm.
67.
So like the survey is like the first pass through, and then you go back and get your backup documentation to flesh out what you've discovered in the first pass.
Yeah.
Okay,
Not only research, but also documentation is a big part of it.
right. Okay,
That does add some helpful color than
Yeah.
what I was able to hear over the phone. So, yeah, I guess. I don't know, that's at least my summary of how things went. I think that based on what we have heard and what HPHC seems willing to do, this sort of a scope amendment, just reducing the number of villages by one. It's the same by nature, the same sort of project they approved. They're happy that we're still trying, frankly. But being a couple of months behind, I think we might as well churn it out to once more, as clearly as we can, to as full of a list as we can. And if, and maybe I would suggest, I guess, a single sentence after explaining it's a historic resources survey, and keep it simple, but just to say, this is envisioned to support a future effort to put together National Register nomination forms. That combined with the fact that they are professionals,
can you just leave out the word future?
I just want to make
Sounds
sure,
like, makes it kind of like long-term, like somewhere in the distant future, we're gonna do that.
I want to make sure that they understand that, like, that they're clear that we're not saying like through this grant project.
Right. Mhm.
So
You can say this information be
subsequent,
used.
maybe subsequent
Subsequent.
instead.
Yeah,
So I trying to remember the wording in the official grant document. So we're asking for a formal scope change or reduction. I think there's a process for that. I can't remember what the words are.
They asked me to send them an email with it in writing, and I did just, a couple of days ago. And so they emailed me back just yesterday to say, again, and they did it by email, but we are okay with you going from 3 villages to 2. We would suggest, that's where all the other detail, we would suggest that you choose Arkwright and Harris, because they're, they have more of a common
together.
theme. If you want to do Green as one of them instead, then just, write back and explain why. But we can follow up with them to make sure, like, do you need anything else? Do you need anything submitted via eCivis, or was that email sufficient? We can clarify that with them, but they basically expressed that they're okay with that, the nature of that amendment.
Can you forward me the email?
Mhm.
Okay, so, we're approved for scope reduction, fine. You're gonna go through the MPA process again, but with that sentence changed? or
I'll
you're-
do it as an RFP this
You
time
do an
for that,
RFP.
again, just the idea of doing the MPA in the first place was that it would have, ostensibly saved time. So, we're already a couple months anyway. Let's aim for this round of it, because if this round doesn't turn up somebody,
how are you gonna
Okay.
advertise it?
yeah.
Are you gonna
It's-
advertise it?
I I know, I was asking Doug what the details are, how it works in town, because the broad theme that I know is that there's no one absolutely standard process across each department. As far as I understand it, it's basically handled by the clerk for the most part. The clerk has various places, like, I think the town website is one of them, but I don't know if there's third-party websites that other
Goes
municipalities
out
in the
in the
state use.
Coventry reminder, it
It's-
goes out.
So they post it in various
Yeah.
places, and then I think like staff is then emails it again as like a tap on the shoulder type, did you notice, to the people that are on the state's list. And from there, I guess you wait. It's either going to be, if we have like a question period, so yeah, I tried to get the specifics before the meeting, and Doug wasn't able to, I guess, get enough clarity wherever else. If there's like a question, maybe we'll have like a period of whatever, 2 weeks, and if you've got any questions, let us know. And then we publicly post all of the questions that were asked by all of the consultants with an answer for each one. We
On
may
the
do it that
website,
way,
also
yeah.
On the website.
And then, another whatever, 2 weeks or something. for
We don't
people
have
to
a
get their bids
purchasing
together.
department, do we, in this town?
I don't think so, yeah.
Boy, do we need-
So it's that, as far as I know, that's basically the process. It's that it's more pomp and circumstance. In terms of it gets posted here and there, and it's the clerk that technically is the one who formally opens all the bids. And then, relays the information to us, and then we look at the information. So and I'm not even sure, I think finance has a larger role in the actual, depending on what the bids actually are, monetary amount, I think they maybe have more of a role in selecting. It's to be figured out, but if we're gonna do this once more, let's do the full process, just the way that they asked for it in the first place. Reach out to as many people as we can, and at that point, if we've been as clear as we can, if we reached as many people as we can, if we did as many of the fine formal steps as we can, and we still haven't gotten any bites, then maybe it's just the next time, or, for the next time the cycle comes up, we do just a single one at a time, assuming we get a grant award of that amount,
When do you think you're gonna post the RFP?
as quick as I can, because, yeah, well, hey, I'd like for it, I
2
was
weeks?
trying to, yeah,
1 week?
I'd like for it to be within a week, yeah,
Now, when you say post it, you mean give it to the clerk to post?
yeah.
And she's gonna
Mhm.
post it on the town website?
Is
I
our
know it's
website,
in
and
a
I think
place.
maybe a couple other places. That's, again, I wish I had more clarity to be able to say, if I knew every exact step, then I could say I could do this within 4 days or something, or like by next Wednesday. But
Can you-
basically,
Yeah, so basically.
I don't wanna have us losing any more
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, because we want to get this going. So I guess when you give it to the clerk, could you ask her to let you know where she's gonna advertise it and then relay it to us? Like she put it on the website, she put an ad in the reminder, she did this on the state website, whatever. So just so we can go look at it and,
It is, I will say as well, I think it's a, just quietly watch kind of thing. When the period is open, Doug was saying to me that basically you can't, once you put it out there, it's, if you answer questions, it gets done all at once, and
Don't
everybody's,
answer anybody's
you
questions
can't,
about anything.
you can't start at that point reaching out to anybody individually.
should
So
be
it's,
the disinterested party like the clerk.
yeah, it's, so,
Everything has to go through her. We can't give these people advice or information or anything. It all has to go directly to the clerk. Because otherwise could be
Well,
conflicts of interest
and then
and
usually they just, yeah.
favorable, treating one
Yeah.
guy more favorably than
I've
somebody
done many
else.
of these and.
So-
Yeah, and then
Really
Any
I guess
problem.
they typically would just say, all right, we're gonna, start over, renotice it, do it all over again. And again, if it's gonna take a little extra time to go through the extra formal steps, then the compensation for it is, we'll do it with a larger list. We'll observe all those steps to the letter. And, we reduce the scope such that it should hopefully cost less, but also one fewer village just means that much less work, so hopefully
we'll
that
get it
keeps us
faster.
on to, it evens out with regard to the schedule, keeping within the cycle of the grant.
Well,
That's,
they
as
said-
far as I can tell, it's the best
They
advice I
said
can
3
give.
villages are about 25,000, so they're running about $8,000 a village, so we'll see.
They said they did it in a roundabout way. They're saying like maybe 30% of this, so I equated it to roughly 20-25, maybe. Say, yeah, if it's at the high end and it's like 8, maybe that's within haggling range, you never know, maybe if we say, look, we got 15, could you make that work? Maybe 1 or 2 that tips the scale, they say, yeah, I'll be friendly, I'll do it, because you're local, you never know. But I think we're close enough that it's worth it, that it's a realistic shot. That's where that stands, then,
So we're doing Harrison now, right? I mean, that's what it's changing to.
yeah. And I guess that way we just keep green in the back pocket for whatever the next,
Well, it's not going
either the
anywhere.
next cycle, or we save
Are you
it.
sure about that?
Has
Green,
it gone anywhere in the last
No, it's not
30 years?
going
I don't think
anywhere.
it's going anywhere now.
that I know of. Okay. Anything else about the grant? Anybody wants to discuss? Okay, Pine Grove Cemetery, the reason why that's on the agenda is that I have finally had an answer about ARPA funds. After 6 applications, we are not getting ARPA funds for Pine Grove, which is not a surprise, but it took 6 applications to get them to say something. So we need to think of a way to get that done. And, not that I expect a decision or whatever, but how can we get it done? The Historical Society has tried to get grants and they won't touch it because it's a town property. DPW has tried to get grants and I don't know why they don't get them, but they haven't gotten them. It's a town responsibility.
I'm sorry to interrupt, what did the town say about the ARPA funds as
They
to
were
why not?
spoken for.
Okay, so they committed.
They're
to
spending
doing
them on
this.
other things
Okay.
like the consolidation of the fire
It
department
wasn't,
and.
yeah, it wasn't like they had an eligibility problem of
No,
their
no,
own,
but
yeah,
other things have happened since.
yeah.
They're not gonna spend the money on that,
Well,
basically.
they're not taxpayers, they're dead. So,
They're gonna wait till the wall falls down and the
Right.
bodies tumble out of the
right, but,
thing.
anyway, it's being not nice, but it's true, they're not, it's not something the town can make money off of or benefit from. It should have been taken care of years ago, just like many other things that have been ignored, but
So
anyway,
is DPW capable of getting a grant for
they've
that?
tried to get
Yeah,
grants.
they can.
And they haven't, they've tried, but they've been denied.
Yeah.
I don't know who they tried with.
Yeah,
Is this a public safety issue, like, can people walk around the cemetery without fear of the whole thing, like, just that they're lucky
What's
would
holding
collapse?
the wall up is trees. If the trees come down, the wall comes down.
the trees that grew up in front of the wall, basically holding it up.
So if the
Right.
trees come down for any reason, the wall's coming down too, and the graves are coming down. I mean, it's not something that's gonna happen tomorrow, but
Mhm.
you can't
I
ignore it
wonder if there's a legal violation.
forever.
here.
Well, it's
Well, there were,
supposedly,
there were some parts of the
Collapses, it
wall
will
that
Mhm.
literally could fall out, and the grave sites are right directly behind
the
it.
stones are falling
They're falling out of it.
between the trees. It's the
Yeah.
trees that's what's holding it
Yeah.
from complete collapse.
It's not a safety issue, it's just a historical and responsibility issue.
What
And it-
about
There's gotta be
put together a
regulations.
presentation to the town council?
It's not in the budget. I said, well, okay,
Fair
not this
enough,
year,
but if we
but
show enough
we have-
compelling pictures and tell a
yes, we have
compelling
to
enough
find another
story,
way.
might convince
Yeah,
somebody
we have
to
to find
push
another-
harder. for
That's
getting
what
it
I said.
done.
We're gonna have to find a way to do this. I know what, not this year,
Right, they need
but
to
this is a
put a
town.
line item in the yearly budget of
The town
100 or
responsibility.
110,000 in order to get it done.
You've got a lot of cemeteries on private land. That's different. This is a town-owned cemetery. It's their responsibility.
Which brings up, when is the budget put together, Alex, for the year in the town?
Think that they start at the beginning of the calendar year, like, or sometime in like
January,
middle of winter.
yeah,
Yep.
January,
Because
February.
it runs from when to when? To June,
The
right?
fiscal year
Yeah.
is, July 1st to June 30th.
Yeah.
So that's what, I mean, if we
Yeah.
start putting together a presentation now,
Right.
we get in front of them before the end of the year.
Right.
So it's fresh in their mind when
Right.
they start the
Yeah.
discussions in January, maybe we'll get lucky and they'll add a
They'll
line.
put,
I don't know if they're gonna wanna have that issue in front of the public at a meeting, though.
Oh,
It's putting them on the
because it would be
spot.
embarrassing?
Yeah.
So maybe that's more of a reason to do it.
Well, but
That
see,
could
we are a
backfire
central
on
governmental
this guy.
agency right now, so it would be, if you were just a gadfly going up there to complain about it, that would be okay, but when it's a commission, there's a lot of protocols that come into play. You don't want to embarrass them in front of the
This
public.
is an election year too, and I don't know whether. It's hard to see, there's,
Well, we wouldn't be
something like
doing
this
that
is
year
totally
anyway,
volatile,
so
but
We wouldn't be doing this year anyway. It would
you
be
mean,
after.
oh, you mean like calendar year, like
Right.
not
Yeah.
before an election?
But Paul brought up a good point, is that we really want to be able to submit a budget, and we've already built this basic skeleton of a budget, so. We're gonna want to be able to present that to somebody so that we can, start taking some actions. 'Cause right now, we got $1,000, right? So
I remember that you put Pine Grove in the draft, but just to be clear,
Yeah,
are you saying, I wonder if that would even. I'm not even sure if that would fall under HPC's budget as opposed to, like, is it two things? Is
Well,
what I'm asking.
DPW has
Are we,
tried to get grants for it, so does it?
so
fall-
maybe it would go
They
under
mow
theirs,
grass.
so it might be two things, and it might be
So should it go
convince them of
into
the value
DPW?
of Pine Grove, but also, we have a draft budget of our own.
But
this
does
year.
it
be a
go into
DPW
DPW?
budget.
Also to find out from DPW who they,
They probably went to
applied
Champlin like
to
everybody
get
does.
grants and
It's
were
quite a while ago,
refused.
I don't remember.
Just so
There's just a
we
lot
have
of,
a background of information
Yeah.
on that to be able to maybe
The last
go
estimate
some
was
other
what?
way. And I'm only pointing out
Yeah.
that there is always and it doesn't have to be confrontational going before the
No, no,
town council.
no, not looking
You're
for it to be
presenting with the
confrontational.
evidence. I've taken tons of pictures of it,
Mhm.
whatever, and you put them up on the
Mm.
screen and explain to them approximately the cost that we've received estimates on it. And that, can this be included in the town budget following year? I mean, what is our town budget for the year? Do you know?
Hours?
Yeah. You
The whole
remember?
town's like 32
Oh, no,
million.
hours.
I'm not so sure, yeah.
You know,
Like-
so, and
ours is like
I'm sure
$1,000.
Like
they would
$1,000?
probably shoot us down, but it's worth a try.
Yeah, at least,
Go in and present it and see if it could be added in
yeah,
to the DPW budget or whatever, possibly to get it fixed that way.
I know Maureen had wanted to do an educational one anyway,
Yeah.
and maybe that's like the setup, I don't know.
yeah, she could do
Yes,
the
we could
nice
go in and talk
presentation.
about it and discuss the problems with Pine Grove, talk about the volunteer hours that have
historic
gone
importance of
into it.
Yeah,
The volunteers can't fix the wall.
because she already had a nice presentation
She
ready,
does have a
Yep.
very nice.
so, and then like put in the zinger
Right,
about
put
the
it,
the
put
wall.
it together with Maureen's.
This is what we've done as
cemetery
volunteers. We
restoration
cannot do
stuff.
this,
Yeah,
but it should be done. I mean, not to be belligerent or anything, I mean,
yeah.
No, it would be,
I get it.
it would be educational, it'd be bringing, an issue of relevance to their attention.
Yeah.
And hopefully a way that is well received, but
but it's just, we're gonna keep trying. Till
Mhm.
they finally fix the wall.
How big is this retaining wall? Okay.
Which is,
How tall is the wall?
how tall is the wall?
How tall is the wall? It's about 5.5 feet to 6 feet, varies as the grade goes down.
And with stone, like large
Stone.
boulders,
Dry laid stone,
boulders
granite.
size or
not boulder size, no.
field stone?
Is it
This
block?
big, smaller, not nice, normal stone wall with nice granite pieces that are irregular, but this long, this thick.
But
capping
laid,
the
laid
top.
in, yeah.
Yep,
How long is it?
it was done as a retaining wall, so it was fairly big stones that they used in the wall. They're probably
the
this
base.
big,
Yeah.
front to back, this big and bigger, and there are some little pieces, but the cap was all cut granite,
You-
not finely cut, but cut
Do you
granite.
remember how long? I have an idea of how long it was.
I believe it was like 110 feet.
Hmm.
I mean, I got all the information.
Yeah, I know you
but
do, yeah.
That's what I remember.
And the entire length is failing? Or just a portion?
Not the entire length, no. The wall goes on beyond that, probably another 50 or 60 feet of wall, but that's the section. That's fine, and that's partly because the grade gets less as the
Okay, yeah.
lane goes up this way, so there's less showing, and there isn't as much pressure on it. The lower part is the worst part, where all the pressure of the water getting behind the wall has pushed it over with time, so.
The reason I ask is that, under DPW's, budget, they may be able to do it in-house. I mean, instead of
Yeah, that's our
needing
goal.
a separate budget item to
Well,
get a grant to
Yeah.
hire a
I-
company to do
I
it.
question their ability to do it in-house.
Yeah.
And, and I'm not being
I understand.
rude about it. I just, as a professional in the building business, that's a fairly tricky job.
Yeah.
and
That's why I
you
asked
need-
how high.
well, it's just you need good masons to do it.
Well, that's, it would
with-
still be, as long
and
as
it's
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 gonna
the
be done.
drywall now.
It's but it's drywall, but it's gotta be done right, and the guys, you're asking an awful lot of the guys in DPW who don't do this as a trade.
Well, no,
Yeah,
this is the thing,
I got two prices for it, back when we were trying to get the money for it from professional masonry companies, to
it's
do
not
it.
necessarily that the DPW employees would do it, but it would be in their budget so they
It
could.
could be
contract
right,
it out.
I'm just responding with,
Mhm,
Yeah,
that maybe they could do it, and I say absolutely not.
Right,
You're asking too much of them and someone will get hurt.
but they would get a contractor to come in, it would come out of their
Contract
budget.
come
And
in,
that's why he was
knows
trying to
what they're
get
doing and
grants.
how to
He
set
didn't wanna, I
things
guess,
and
for
do
whatever-
all this stuff with
for
it.
whatever
and
his
do it
reason,
right.
he didn't put it under his budget. He was
Mhm.
looking for grants. But this was a while ago, and we've tried more than once for Champlain, no, they don't do town things at all.
Yep.
So,
So should we try to get a date? And it's too bad Maureen's here. Of course, we can't,
Yeah.
make any final decisions without her participation. But just in generalities, should we try to have Maureen do a presentation and then talk about that wall like in the next couple of months, so it's fresh on their minds when they start putting their budget together?
We should,
We don't want to do it in March or something,
no,
after.
no,
and you
the
don't want to do
beginning-
it around Christmas.
No, the beginning of the year.
Yep.
The beginning of the year.
Like January,
Yeah,
when they're actually doing the number crunching.
yeah, that would be a good
You know,
time to
after the
do it.
holidays. the
After the
election will be
holidays
over.
are over, when they're starting to think about their budget and stuff, to see if we could somehow get that in there. It's worth a
See,
shot.
Hey, all they can do is,
Nothing else is
all they
worth
can
so
do is
far.
say no.
How long have we been trying to get this done? 5 years?
we're good at no. Well, Champlain, no. Town, no. It's not like we didn't submit on time. They just never had the application. I don't know what they did with them, but. Okay. So we'll talk to Maureen or about doing something after the holidays in January. Okay, now we're going to ongoing projects, which we all have, like the chore. One of the things I want to note is that the roof of the St. Germain store is caving in.
Mhm.
It's very noticeable. It won't be up much longer.
Yeah,
Not that we can do anything about it,
it's
but it's
accelerating.
caving in. The roof of the St. Germain store is,
Oh, St. Germain store, yes, it
It's-
is.
It's actually taking the soffit out now too. I saw the
Yeah.
soffit the other
Yes.
day was coming out.
It's,
not that we
Really
can do
gone.
anything about it, but I just wanted to
yeah,
mention.
no.
I was thinking of pinging Elizabeth again and ask her if there's any movement.
And on that note, just nothing to do with St. Germain, but I don't know if you've been seeing it, but the building next door is finally getting.
Yes,
Yeah.
the pizza shop.
Yep, it's
a
getting
house.
worked
Yeah.
on.
Is
They
it gonna be a
turned it
house?
into a house?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
good.
good.
Do you know anything about it?
No, but I just drive by there all the time.
Yeah,
When I
I've
first-
been by a couple of times in the past couple of
Yeah.
weeks and I see they're making good progress
Mhm.
Yeah,
on
I
it.
know it had been sold, but then it kind of sat
Yeah.
still, but
I was disappointed at first because I envisioned it as some public use kind of thing. But they're doing a really good job. It's
Yeah.
gonna be a nice
Yeah,
little
they are.
house.
Was that also, was it the train station?
train station.
Yeah,
That was the
Train
depot.
the depot.
That was the
Now,
depot for it.
One thing that we might want to, you guys know the Waterman Tavern
Yeah.
in Potterville near my house?
Yeah.
Mhm.
They have a plaque on a rock in the
Yep.
front yard that says
Rochambeau.
at this spot, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Maybe we could do something like that with that house, approach the owners and say, hey, could we,
Yep.
this is the old train station, because I think that's just
Well,
really cool.
We go
that they're
back to
doing
the
that.
whole thing with Wood Dawning to do a plaque program then.
Yeah,
And doing it, see if people, I mean, I'm always saying this because there's a little old house on South Main Street. I know I'm getting off topic here, but the house has been basically in disrepair for a while. But had nice detail on it, had wide column corners and stuff like that. And it's right before the VFW post.
yeah, I think I know what you're,
And
but
they've
they're
been
rebuilding
working on
it,
it. The
right?
people
Yes,
who
they
have
have
this,
been
they've been
working,
working on
yes.
it. I go by
The
it every
Brownell
day.
House.
They've been diligent in their work. And yes, it has vinyl siding and that on it, but still, they've done a really nice job. They
Mhm.
kept the detail in the
Yeah.
corners
Mhm.
and everything, and they didn't put some ugly door on the front of it to ruin it.
Yeah.
And
We
do that.
lucked out.
But again, we should honor them with a plaque.
Yeah.
Give them a plaque for that house, you
Yeah.
know? I'm more to give the plaques away as part of our
Well,
budget
yeah.
than to try and charge people for them. People who had a real historic house who
Hmm.
wants to get one, you know, whatever for it.
I'll make a note of it on.
For our budget, but I'm
Mhm.
just, because you started talking about budget, I thought about it, and you know,
I'm
you
not sure the
see
number.
certain examples
house.
where people actually do a nice job doing that, and, you know, we should have a way to reward them for their fine work.
The signs that Maureen gets are only the roadway signs, right?
Mhm, yes.
I wonder if there's any other opportunity like that that we could get, you know, even whatever the mounts or something,
Hmm.
just if
On
anybody's got
houses?
yeah, or just, yeah, if anybody's got any kind of
I don't know.
program like that, it'd be nice, but I don't
Well,
know.
the
It's just a
Tuxet Valley
thought.
does it, but they do one a year, but.
Yeah,
they-
but I mean, again, that's, you know, you don't
They
do
do
it
it.
indiscriminately. If we're
Yeah.
gonna do it,
Yeah.
you allot for, let's say, 5 a year or something, you know,
Yeah.
whatever, in the budget, do it. But I think that helps to promote people's interest in the history of their houses and towns as
Mhm.
much as anything, as opposed to trying to charge something for it and have.
Well, we could never get a clear
It-
answer on how we would.
No,
do it
we-
anyway, so-
right.
You know, and I think something like that would be good to also have a public outreach by writing a little article
Yeah,
about, you know,
Absolutely.
so-and-so, Mr.
Yep.
and Mrs. So-and-so did this in this house, we
Yep.
used to have a
Yeah.
history of,
Yeah,
and, then the
Yeah.
chairman is shaking the
Mhm.
hand with the plaque.
Yeah.
And put, through with
Absolutely.
the article.
Mm.
yep.
Yeah, they're probably.
I'll put some in the budget
Hmm.
for that, at least for now.
Anyone else who wants to talk about their project or what they're doing?
Before we go on to that, because you mentioned the VFW, what's up with the bench? That they took away?
Oh, yeah, near the
Still
bridge.
like
the
DPW.
bridge.
There's another bench there. I want them to take it.
Okay, but they said they were gonna put the old bench, the bench they took back once they fixed it, just
Well,
spent
then,
like
this is under
6 months.
DPW. They took it. I don't know what they're doing with it.
Alright,
We can find out.
So I have my presentation for the mission statement.
Wait a minute, let me just write that down.
Hmm.
Because I was thinking that myself. It's gone. It hasn't come back, and there's the other one still sitting there.
You
That
probably
one should
wanna
be
ping 'em so
restored
they don't
too,
Forget
so-
it, and it's sitting in the back of a storeroom somewhere.
Before we let you do that.
Yeah.
And I just, only because we're on this subject of the houses,
Mhm.
did you notice that those 2 mill houses are up for sale now? Right across from where you lived and where you had your.
The Jurassic house. There's 4 houses in there.
There are 4? Right,
There's 2
the
on
stuff
the
behind.
road and 2
Oh.
behind.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Where is this?
The Jurassic property. Yes.
Right after,
Hill Farm?
right
No, no,
after
no, no,
Dunkin'
Main
Donuts.
Street
No,
down here.
right after Dunkin' Donuts
Down
on
here,
Main Street. Those 2 that look semi-abandoned with the everything.
Oh, yeah, yeah, they're
Yeah.
for sale.
Yep,
There's
and
4
this,
houses
I didn't
there.
know there was more, but that whole
Yeah.
site is for sale.
One of them, the roof has collapsed.
Yeah,
In all my years of living here, no one has ever lived in that
Yep.
house. They own the property, they didn't like people,
Hmm.
and they wanted to be left alone, so they own these 4 houses and.
Right, I was
nobody
surprised
lived
at
in
the
them.
acreage that it says on
It's
the.
2 acres,
Yeah,
2
it's
plus
2
acres,
there,
yeah.
so
you
anyway,
think it's a
something's
candidate for
gonna
getting
happen
knocked
with
down?
that.
Oh,
Have you
probably.
heard anything? No,
Oh, it's gonna get.
because it just went on this week.
Yeah, it's gonna
Does that
get,
go up?
they want $1 million
I-
for it.
Wow.
Hmm.
Jeez.
I don't know what
It's
happened
too
to the
bad,
people.
because someone mentioned it to me today, one of my customers. and
I would
was saying,
think maybe
"God, I'd love
Coventry
to see
Housing."
Those things restored,
I mean,
and then something built in back maybe, but.
Well, the
2
one
houses-
right behind those 2, the roof has collapsed. The next one over. No, I think there's 5 houses on the property.
Hmm.
The next one over and the next one over were lived in by Sally and her sister and their brother. So there were. And then the 2 on my street, the one on the corner of Jersey Court, nobody has ever lived in, but the other one, the Pellet family lived, so I remember people living there.
Yeah,
But of all those houses, that not everybody, not
Mm.
all the houses were lived in. They didn't want anybody around them.
Well, it's in
well,
your
something's
neighborhood,
gonna
maybe you
happen
should
with that
consider a
property
purchase.
anyway.
Well, I would think housing would be looking at it, Coventry Housing, you would think, but then,
Well,
no, but I know, I was
$1 million.
surprised. So they're, obviously they're
$5
going,
lots for $1 million sounds like a good deal to me.
the floor is yours. huh?
no, anyway, go ahead.
Yeah,
Mission statement.
Okay, I was asked to do a presentation on mission and vision. So, but what I've done is I've pared it down to just the mission for tonight. And we'll do vision at a later date. And don't get scared with all of the information on this page. I'm just gonna go through it really quickly. And then I think we'll, come back next time and talk about it a little further. So, I wanted to just say that, what a mission statement is, it provides ethical and strategic guidance, rallies stakeholders around a common goal, and adds clarity to operations So our stakeholders will be who? Citizens, right? Citizens.
Mhm.
Who else? Who else would be a stakeholder in historic preservation? The town?
The town, business owners, because it improves their town.
Okay. So this little exercise is to give us some thoughts on how to specifically write sentences for the mission statement.
Could schools be a stakeholder for
Yeah.
that? For
Yeah, because,
education
yeah,
purpose,
mhm.
Tourists.
tourism?
Oh, yeah,
State of Rhode Island,
state. Have a big,
specifically the HVAC.
yeah, they have a big role to play. Okay, then a mission statement is a short, direct, and compelling way to state core strategy of our commission. So what is our core strategy? Saving our history, our heritage?
And telling the history about it.
Mhm. Educating. See, these could be key words in our actual mission statement. And if you would, when you take this home, maybe take it out one night or something and jot down some notes, for more definition of these underlying concepts. It provides a link between our everyday goals and activities, and what we hope to achieve long term. So, so that's something else that we'll need to think about, our activities, like, repairing the Reed Schoolhouse and things like that, and our everyday goals. With, budgetary concerns and things like that. So these are the things that will be the building blocks for the mission statement. And then how to write it, keep it short. Many mission statements are complex, but short and sweet is the best way to make an impact. And our mission statement is our commission distilled down to its essence. It needs to be concise, but comprehensive enough to understand and intriguing enough for readers to want to learn more. When I saw that, I thought that was interesting to, intriguing for a mission statement. But then I read some mission statements. I went all over the internet looking at mission statements for like organizations. And some of them did make you a little more interested, and you read it and you thought about it a little bit. So it's not just like some kind of corporate mission statement just to get it over with. And then, the best and most compelling mission statements are crystal clear and concise. That's kind of repetitive there. And then we got to consider the who, what, and why. Why do we exist? Who do we serve? How do we serve them? And this is when we serve them, what did we do to serve them? And what was the result? Like, we wanted to save the St. Germain store and we saved it, and now it's a wonderful community asset. So will that ever happen? Probably not.
That's what the state.
Yeah, there's got to be something that they need to be held accountable. They sat on that building for
Yeah.
30 years and just let it deteriorate. They should have just given it to the town when they first
I
bought it.
guarantee you, they'll just tear it down. And that's it.
Somebody
and-
has
but
to
this
go
is-
through the
The
roof.
state is tearing down a
I
building.
mean, I know they got a
It's
fence
saving.
on it now, but it is a hazard, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
Definitely. The mission statement needs to be compelling and memorable. Great mission statements evoke emotion and avoid generalities. And we do need to avoid buzzwords and jargon, and there should be easy to remember. And then a simple statement would be something like, our mission is to, and then we say what our mission is, and who do we do it for, and how do we do it. And I won't read all these, but these are some good and not so good mission statement examples that I saw where we can probably lift a lot of the sentiment that they bring out in these mission statements. So I have one from the Rhode Island Historical Preservation and Heritage Commission. I mean, that's our hierarchy. So that would be something to ascribe to with some of their information. And then I put Newport in here because I thought this was like maybe just a placeholder. Maybe they haven't written theirs yet, because all it says is
Wow.
the Historic District Commission is comprised of a body of volunteers appointed by the city council and advised by the city's historic preservation planner. And it does say mission statement right on the website too, so.
And they have a pretty extensive amount of people working there.
Yeah,
I can tell you my little stories about that.
And I see that I've made a typo here on Tuxet Valley Preservation Historical Society. I'll bring that back later because they had a pretty good one. I cut it off for some reason. East Greenwich has a great one.
Yeah.
I really like how East Greenwich Preservation Society does their work. One thing I also wanted to make a note of is that we need to look at these and notice the differences between what a commission says and what a society says.
So,
A commission is a pseudo-governmental agency. We're here to support the town government. We're here to do all that. So we have to make it our verbiage in line with helping the town advance these goals. And a society, well, you guys know what a society is. They're, more freewheeling. They're getting funding from a lot of different places. So they're gonna have a little bit of a different sound to their mission statements. South Kingston was good.
Did you look at the Narragansett one by any chance?
I did, but it didn't make the cut.
No, I didn't think they'd have a good
What
one.
do you like about,
No, I don't know. I'm just.
I'll look
saying,
it
I
up.
think They would have a good one. 'Cause
Yeah.
They have a pretty strong commission now.
How about Westerly? You're involved in Westerly.
Westerly doesn't have one.
Oh, they don't?
Westerly had
They-
a preservation
They have a
society,
society.
but back when I worked for, the closest that I've gotten to that world is I worked for an attorney a couple of years ago who was, maybe he was on the board of a condominium association that was in a historic building in Watch Hill. And Westerly doesn't have anything on the books, nothing official, no historic district commission. There had been a preservation society, but I remember an email coming through saying like, we're all old and going. We were gonna shut this down, and then I remember them thinking like, oh, I wonder if there's anyone out there who could fill it. I don't know if they're active now.
The historical societies are pretty strong down there, because I know some of the people from doing my Madison map presentation stuff.
More
Learning
resources
down there,
too.
and they
citizens
got
wise.
Quanticoag Historical Society, which is part of Westerly and that, and Westerly Historical Society does quite a bit
They
with
do, yeah.
their things, but I didn't know they didn't have a commission, but anyway.
I know it's
But
one of our aberrations.
Do you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing with the Westerly train station?
It's my work with that will end up being like nonprofit.
Yeah,
I
are you
have-
writing a book?
It's yes, yeah, and ultimately, but the organization is gonna be focused around that, like that specific piece of history and doing public education. So it's maybe you would say it's a little more like the Preservation Society and like more freewheeling.
Yeah,
And it was good to draw our attention to that too, though, because it's, even though we're called a Historic Preservation Commission, that's that interesting line we walk. We have a governmental role,
mhm,
at least that's how we came into existence in the first place. But we're able to get the name changed to preservation and working a little more to flesh out what's on the books as our enabling ordinance, because that's not the only thing we do.
right.
So, yeah, I guess ours would end up being some sort of hybrid in terms of the tone that we would be striking.
Mhm. So, yeah, I do hope that we'll give it plenty of thought and write a really good one, because it's something that others that come after us will be familiar with and make that their living document as well. So, and then finally, other helpful language sourced from state government sources. And so I've got Rhode Island Comprehensive Planning Standards Guidance Handbook. I looked all these things up, and I'll just read a little bit of this first one. An understanding of where a community came from, its heritage, is essential to plan for what it will become. So see, those kind of words sound really good, and incorporate that into our statement a little bit. And then I've got actual law, state law here, land use policies. And so there's a lot of information here. I distilled it down to something that everyone can quickly go through, look at it, consider it, make a few notes, and then bring this back next time, and then we'll maybe flesh out a rough draft at the next meeting and then finalize it.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay,
You want to look at the draft website
Yeah.
information?
Yeah.
I don't know either.
I can
Plug
plug
that
that in, yep.
I have no idea what else is on this,
We're not.
Only one way to find out,
yeah, no
yes.
kidding.
Oh, you've already got it. Perfect.
Yeah, this program here. Other files exist. Oh, which tells me you don't have.
Oh, you don't even have PowerPoint
PowerPoint.
loaded.
No, well, it says if you view menu, click show pictures only, you only see your
Let's
images.
try it.
Show pictures.
So if you go
Um,
view,
Oh, view, okay.
show pictures only, is that a thing? She's already checked.
Yeah.
Anything.
I wonder if it's possible to
Technology.
open in browser, maybe.
How about I just do it on the laptop and y'all can look
Do you need the thumb drive back?
at it here. You're just gonna have to imagine. I don't have a lot of the information on it yet, just kind of the setup.
Mhm.
Is that a PowerPoint?
Yes.
Might be able to import it into Adobe.
I'm not sure that we have that either on this computer.
Okay.
It's, I know this one
So-
basically has internet and Zoom. That's
Okay.
about all it
So
has.
if you're looking at this, and I'm gonna try one. Come on. I know you're in here somewhere. This is kind of where you land on the Coventry site anyway. So this is their banner that already exists and then what they have. My suggestion is if we go, now these would be drop-down menus. So you would have the banner, and then underneath it, you would have the drop-down menus. So right now I've got about, which is just basically the list of names, who's who, contact information if you want.
I guess also our vision and mission would end up. under about.
Exactly,
Okay.
yes, absolutely. Or you could, on your landing page, so before you have these drop-down menus, say all these menus are back up, you can put your mission and vision on your landing page. You don't have to have your list of members on your landing page. You can put we can put whatever we want on it. He doesn't care. And then what laws we have, so, and the headings right now are about members, meeting dates, contact information, then there's requirements, so that would be ordinances, applications, whatever kind of weird, right? Pictures, just photos, so if we want to just have, rotating photos or a rotating display of photos.
When do you
however
want me to
do
give you some?
He's ready, he's ready.
It's not up yet. Articles, so if you have articles you want published or you want to pull stuff off of, I know there are some on there already, so to make them a transfer, but put them in one place. You can do it by century. So, these are articles that have stuff to do in the 1700s and these are articles for the 1800s. However, you want to organize the articles, there's got to be some kind of organization. We might even be able to make it searchable. I'll have to talk to them about that, but
We have to be careful though, putting articles in there, right? Isn't that like a,
articles that we
Because of-
have, or that we have
oh, we
written,
own?
or
Okay.
that we have permission to use.
Okay.
We can't just willy-nilly stick somebody's article up there just for the fun of it.
I've copied a lot of articles, but they were written either in a journal or whatever and put together into those scrapbooks.
Mhm.
But they're very interesting and stuff. I just found another one in the ones I took home
Mhm.
the other day on made one little section on Coventry with one on the youngest police chief.
Oh,
And it
oh,
was from the 20s and 30s. But I don't think I'm only saying it because I don't think there's any problem with putting them on.
no, I
If you
I don't
have
see
a
where it came
picture,
from.
Is it something you scanned in as a picture?
Yeah, no,
So
but I mean, as far as
Yeah, I don't-
like having.
1920s, I
journal,
don't think anybody
no
cares.
one's gonna
Mhm.
give.
It's
give-
not
You
like
can
we're
always see where you
charging.
found it from.
Exactly,
Yeah,
cite
You
your
can
source.
cite it that it was journal bulletin and I,
Mhm.
And then I have,
usually I try to have that so you can see that,
Mhm, mhm.
with anything like that, but.
we can
Anything that's up
also,
50 years is in public domain anyways, so it doesn't matter.
I have a list of historic locations, which is also where we can put our map when and if we get it done.
Mhm.
So the driving directions and I said something else and I just lost it. Oh, publications. So once we figure out what kind of pamphlets we want to do or what kind of, public, information for the public, we can have a whole section on that as well.
When's that gonna, go live?
Well, if you are okay with the setup, then we can get the setup going and then it's just a question of collecting. I wouldn't want to put it up live until we have the mission statement,
Mhm.
until we have some content
This is
loaded
the
on.
town website.
Yes,
Yep, yes.
so,
So in other words, now, because we have our basic configuration, we need to start talking about content, what we're gonna put on there. Now, can we put information on there before it goes live? Do they have a test site?
they don't have one set up yet, but I'll
Okay.
talk to them about getting a test website we can look at, because we have to look at it and get the bugs,
Mhm.
kinks worked out of
Yeah,
it.
we need to be able to play with it, see it and put stuff on it and look at it and then say, okay, send it up.
So anyway, that's the general plan, unless somebody
Yeah,
has
that's good.
anything.
Yeah, good.
that's-
Very important work.
Good
Yep,
job.
Thank you. It's a start.
It's a start.
Okay,
Thank you, Colleen.
Don't thank me yet, it's not done yet.
that's just that one step is,
Here, you're gonna have to get on it.
That's huge, it's huge.
okay, does anybody else want to talk
So I
about?
was gonna go through, start going through standards and guidelines. Now that I see the way Nick's handling this, I kind of want to change, so I want to hold off.
Okay.
So I'm a little more organized before, because I just wrote notes and I was gonna have us go through the stuff, but let me structure it differently.
Okay, all right. You?
Me, I've been just,
Doing your
whenever I have a
pictures?
chance, I'm doing,
Scanning
scanning
pictures.
pictures and labeling them and.
Um,
I mean, I've created folders, again, I'm trying to do it by villages and stuff like that, whether it's Washington, Anthony, Harris, whatever. And I mean, I've got a lot to do, because I've got a whole bunch of new pictures I've scanned that I've got to now sort into their folders as I go, but at least that way, there'll be the general Coventry ones, but then there'll be ones of, like Anthony, I have a lot of them, of the stuff that went on in Anthony, same in Harris, same in Phoenix. Because even though Phoenix is partly in West Warwick, it's still partly in Coventry, so there's
Yeah.
a lot of historical stuff
Is it-
there.
So how do you store all that? You must need terabytes of storage. Do you have a cloud that you're using or a
I don't
movable
have to,
disk?
when I redid my computer last year, I bought one, I mean, the guy set it up, so it's got a ton of storage.
Yeah, it's probably got at least, new computers are a
Yeah,
terabyte.
I mean, I haven't, not even, I mean, I'd have to do a million pictures to use them.
Nice.
It's just, it takes time, and during the summer, I don't spend that much time on it, but like we had a rainy Sunday, and so I spent about 4 hours working
Nice.
on stuff like. But I learned so much from these books, because Mr. Cook had put these together from all clippings from papers in this, I mean, they're not just the ones that are interesting about Coventry, it's all the other. So I'll get going through them, I get lost in
Yeah.
looking at it and
That's my
reading and
problem,
stuff,
too.
but
we have to put the
I mean,
Coventry
there's
thing.
so much stuff in them that those need to be preserved.
Yeah.
Especially because of their historical content, but I don't try to scan everything in them, obviously, I go through them and I'm trying to do the stuff that pertains
Mhm.
to our area, whether it's Patuxent Valley and Coventry, but they're very interesting, that's for sure.
Cool.
Well, there's also the Washington Gazettes,
What's it?
Washington Gazette, that's at Parks
Yeah.
and Rec,
Yeah,
that
that's
I'd like
right,
to put on there.
yep.
Old,
Oh, be
old
ongoing, that's for
village
sure, but I
newspaper.
mean, as far as
but, we
for the
have.
website and stuff, when it gets
that would need to
going,
be
we
scanned
can
in.
do the ones we have, like the
Yeah.
ones for the villages and stuff like that, because then people
Yeah.
can click on it if they want to see where they live. Like you live in Hopkins Hollow, we
Mhm,
have one, I'm doing one of Green,
They're
I'm
gonna
doing
freak
one,
out when they see
like
how
that.
much
With any
memory
info
is.
I have from, whether it's from my
Yeah.
grandfather's.
Let's see what this
historical
is.
stuff,
Yeah,
that I can
limits
copy,
on it.
because he wrote stuff on
See what happens.
all of this, plus all the stuff from Coventry Historical Society
Yeah,
that had
mhm.
done research and done it,
Mhm.
so.
So you said Parks and Rec, you mean the Levake or whatever the community center is? Is that where,
Yeah,
Yes, not Levake,
what, I
Like
can
the-
never pronounce that, what
no,
is it?
Lefave, Lefave,
Lefave.
yes.
And so the Washington Gazette, is that like papers stacked up and stored in there?
Newspapers,
Okay.
newspapers.
And we also
Turn
have a bunch of
century.
stuff there, weren't we gonna at one point move everything out of there?
We're not now.
We're not now?
No,
Okay.
we looked at a lot of stuff there
Yeah,
and I took something home from there to scan too. I got a box, didn't I?
You
No,
did.
that day I took
I don't
some
remember
stuff,
what you
yeah.
took.
I remember that you did take a box,
Yeah.
yeah.
I took some. I've got one box I went through that last weekend that I got, it's completely done. I started looking at the Ralph Cook
Collection.
scrapbooks, the next batch of them, and I have two other boxes full of pictures and other articles and things related to what we do, you know.
Mhm.
For instance, on the website, I mean, I have the booklet for my grandfather's stuff on the 250th
Mhm.
celebration that would be good to put on there. You could just put it on there, you know, as one, because it has all that info from back then, which is
Mhm.
interesting to people who might
Definitely,
want to
yeah.
look at it,
Yeah.
so. And I'll put that in its own folder, be in there when I do it. But I've copied all that, you know, that one too.
Speaking of 250, I left the town council meeting before they talked about that. I don't know
Oh,
if
the
they,
big celebration in
yeah,
the
did they
state.
ever get to it?
Yeah, they got to it.
They made a
didn't,
resolution.
They made a resolution to do it, but they haven't actually done it
Okay.
yet.
Yeah.
All right, so I didn't really miss
No, they haven't
anything.
done
They
anything.
didn't vote on the resolution, you're saying?
Yeah, they voted on it, but they haven't, so they have to appoint people to it.
Oh, okay.
That
Yeah,
hasn't
it doesn't
happened yet.
exist yet. I mean, the resolution, but not the actual.
So I'm hoping that we'll have a seat at the table. Obviously, I'm sure they will solicit our participation.
That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would imagine.
My understanding.
Okay.
Okay, I started,
There's no budget that goes with it, so.
no, there's never a
Yeah,
budget.
you put your name in it on there.
I started the list. We need to determine what's a landmark and what's a historic site, because landmarks would be a special
Didn't work.
designation, right, where a site would not be.
No.
No, a site would be also.
No, it was, I opened it.
Well, I started making a list. The Summit Library was the Grange Hall, Nixon Hall years ago before it was a library.
If you lived in.
And that's one of the ones you said are going on the ordinance.
Sounds like a lot.
The other one is Reed School, which is going. The others that I, as of right now, is the Perez Capwell site in Anthony, that I'd like to see as a landmark. Well, it's in a national district, so is it landmark or site? Historic site?
Historic landmark. Because the way we defined a landmark,
I don't know, no, my grandfather was George.
historic landmark definitions, local historic landmark, a specific structure or site as designated by ordinance of town. A land, this is a question I had for you, sir. You put in the last sentence, a landmark shall consist of a single structure. Why are we limiting it to a single structure? Because I envision
That
like
was
a
probably old
farmhouse and a barn.
Yeah, I think that was when I understood the distinction as landmark means single, this district means more than one.
Right.
I think that was the whole overtime.
But our understanding of,
Yeah,
a landmark is a specific structure or site.
yeah,
And the site can have a
It's-
foundation and.
Parcel instead of structure. I get what you're saying. The whole, everything was in this bounds, it's
Yeah.
one site. I get what you're
Yeah.
saying. It's
It's a
still only
neighborhood.
one building. It's not really a district, it's one
Right,
thing.
one
it could
property.
be, it
One
could theoretically
property.
be an isolated lot, you know, that
Right,
has
so-
two, you know, two
But
things on
structure
it.
implies that you'd have to do one for the barn and one for the house.
Well, and
I mean,
it's-
it's just one thing.
And at the end of the day, it's important to remember, it's the lot,
Not
really, like what this
So yeah, maybe we
is.
change the word structure to
Yeah.
lot or parcel or something.
Because if later on down the road, somebody might try to hold us to that, if we wanted to say, Longo's Farm, historic farm, with, an old house on it and the remnants of a barn or a foundation, and a site where some famous thing happened near this rock, that's a site, and now it's a landmark. But it would be outside the definition of landmark, because it would be more than a single structure.
Mhm. And so, yeah, I would think I wonder if that sentence just simply gets taken out and it's fine that way.
Yeah, you
But
can
the
take it out and
distinction
be fine.
is, yeah, the distinction, again,
Are you
for
gonna
what
take it
this
out, though?
is.
Cause it's
Yeah.
already over at legal and everything, so
Let me make, which page is that on?
This
Which
is,
line, actually?
58. Oh, look
For
at that,
all
it
the
comes in
work,
place,
for
huh?
all the work I did,
Yeah, let's use that
Yeah.
line number.
let me actually use it, okay.
Line 58. Oh, sorry, line 59 is where the actual
59.
sentence is. Section G was line 58. But yeah, if we could just take that out and leave it a little more ambiguous, when we write law, we want to keep it as ambiguous as we can, so we have wiggle room.
Okay,
So why did that get pulled from the agenda?
The solicitor hadn't reviewed it before,
He
It
had
was
a
going to
ton
go
of
on.
stuff I mean, while you were there, you
Yeah.
saw all the stuff you had to go through.
so
Okay.
he wants to be able to read it and think about it, as well as whatever it is that solicitors do. So,
And it's better for us too, because it won't get buried in all that other stuff he was talking
Well,
about.
he's looking at it from the standpoint of enforceability too. And like you say, when push comes to shove, there's gotta be a line in the sand.
Mhm,
This is the way it is and this is the way it can't be.
mhm.
And somebody's gotta.
he may be able
enforce
to
that line.
see, interpretate.
Yeah.
Areas where interpretation issues could come up, so. He's gonna take a look at it too, and then. When he is able to, or whatever that next council meeting is. And I would
The 9th, I
assume,
believe.
yeah. And it goes back as proceeds as it had been planned.
okay. The Perez Capwell site, Perez was, had a machine shop and he's did the repairs on all the machines in the mills in the 1800s, and he was also an abolitionist. Supposedly, there's a tunnel that you still can see, that the legend is that he brought slaves. He was a part of the Underground Railroad.
Have you seen a
Whether-
writing on that?
I haven't, it's not a proven thing, it's been said.
Oh,
But then it became the Searles Capwell site, so when you go there, it's a 7-acre piece of land owned by the town. And there's a big piece of it's a wheel with a tree growing around it.
Right, it's.
Yeah, and there's,
Portion of the wheel probably that was in the sluiceway that
Right.
turned to turn the saw blades.
and there's a remnant of the building itself, the foundation and some of the walls.
Hmm.
There's you go across the water and up in the back is the mill pond, where the mill broke in the 1920s, the dam broke in the 1920s and flooded all of Anthony. All of that has not been touched.
and I
I
don't
would
have that
like
on
to-
the town list of properties, but I don't know, this isn't an official list or
Well-
anything. So it's called what again?
It's the Perez, what was his name? I never can remember, Perez Peck
Okay,
Machine Shop, and then it was the Searles Capwell,
You should take a
lumber-
ride with me
lumber.
someday down there, Nick, I'll show you it.
yeah,
I wish you
'Cause
would, yeah.
Really, it's interesting with the remnants of the foundation
Right.
work and.
and it is an
sluiceway.
archaeological site,
Yeah.
it's listed as an archaeological site in the National Registry paperwork.
Yeah, Peck is a big name in the mill industries
Yeah.
here in the 1800s,
Yeah.
so.
He lived across the street from Capwell
Yeah,
Ave,
yeah.
his house is still there, and that's where the tunnel is, but it's been filled in.
So what is your point here? You want to get those
As a
on the
landmark.
list?
Or a historic site, one of the,
Yes,
I go back and forth.
Well, we don't have a definition for a site. It's
No,
just
no.
a landmark
But,
or,
but some of the sites I'm thinking for on a map,
yes,
if people want to follow the sites,
Yeah.
they don't necessarily have to be, like, there's a tulip tree at the Isaac Bowen House, supposedly given to that area by George Washington.
oh, wow.
Because George Washington went through the country.
Yeah.
Leaving trees
Yeah.
away to where he put places that he stopped, but where he stopped was across the street and that building is gone. Historic place, not necessarily a landmark,
Right, and we can do that too.
privately owned.
Mhm.
Mhm.
There's the French soldier on the road on the side of 14,
Rochambeau,
Rochambeau's
Mhm.
March.
yep.
But it's not Rochambeau, it's not buried there.
No, no, no,
It's
no,
unnamed
Rochambeau's
soldier
March.
cross.
This is
Not
Mark,
named
this is where he
so-
walked.
Yes, that's,
Have you seen the new
technically-
sign someone has marked with
Yeah.
Yep.
road signs?
Yep.
Washington, Rochambeau.
oh, yeah,
all
yeah,
the way
they did
from
that a few
Situate
years
and
ago.
down.
way up
They did a few
Right
years
by
ago.
my
Fine
house.
every day going to my job.
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
From out of Newport.
Yep.
Up and around.
Hmm.
But there's this French soldier that's there, Maureen knows where he is, technically, I would think that's state property, side of the road.
Probably on the
State road.
easement.
I'm assuming it's state property, because
Yeah,
they,
probably.
but,
I mean,
you know,
I-
as a
It's
little,
close to the road though, right?
yeah,
I think
you know,
that's what
as
she
little,
said.
there's the Biscuit Hill Road, which was part of, they went through with Rochambeau's army. It's an intact colonial road that's
Mhm.
Audubon property.
They can all be landmarks.
Yes,
a
Spencer,
feature, give 'em a
Spencer Rock
feature.
up in, Nick Carbuncle Pond. I don't really know why it has that name, but it's a nice spot. I've got the Cairns, who are the native burial grounds in the Audubon Society. The Comstock Homestead, which we've had mentioned before, which
Mhm.
is in a land trust property.
Yeah.
The Chase Mill site, which is also on Audubon property, but it was owned by the Chase family, but it was run by freed slaves. After, well, I don't know.
That's so interesting. It'd be so great
Yeah.
to find writings on that.
Yeah.
And I apologize, I do see.
Yeah.
Whereas Peck, so
Yeah.
I do see it on,
Yeah,
it
that's
is on
fine.
the list.
And then there's Black Rock itself, which we
Yep.
talked
Yeah.
about more than once. And there's other places too that I've seen in the surveys they did when they did the bike
Yeah,
path over.
Black Rock would
A
be a
lot
good one
of
to
them
be.
are on state-owned land trust properties or Audubon. But there was a problem about land trust that they talked about at that meeting, Alex. about-
Coventry doesn't have a land trust, apparently.
They have a
They-
land trust, but the
Very active. in buying a lot
properties
of
are
stuff.
not under
It's
the
only
land
a
trust.
town of Coventry.
Yeah, but the properties are not.
Yeah,
supposed
like the,
to
on the
be
deed, it'll
under-
show town of Coventry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's another ordinance that wasn't clear.
Not a land.
So the properties have been deeded as a town property, not as a land trust property.
Right.
So that needs to change. And he talked about changing. I don't know how they're gonna change it. I don't know how they're gonna do it.
Well,
But
it's
if it's-
legal's job to figure that one out.
Yeah, but if it stays as a town property, what stops them from selling it?
Unless there's a conservation easement
Yeah,
recorded. on
I don't
it.
know, but
Yeah.
you know, those are all things like the Comstock homestead is on a land trust property. So I thought, oh, this is safe. But
But
is
it's
it
not
safe?
really.
You know, there's the Nicholas Farm area that, a lot of that state DEM owned. And
I
there's a
think- I
lot
think
of
that is-
Native American sites there
I
and
think that
whatever,
farm is national historically registered, I think.
not national,
No?
it's a DEM site,
Oh,
state site.
Huh.
I'm pretty sure it's a state site.
Hmm.
There's Audubon sites, there's DEM sites, there's town sites. And a lot of these, there's the Barn Hollow Farm that's on Audubon property, and that you can see, because it's not, it's
mhm.
the foundation of the house and the barn and whatever, and there's a sign there that says what it is. Audubon's good at that, but there's a lot of things, like I said, this Comstock homestead, I only read it in the survey they did when they did the bike path. It's the only reason why I knew about it. And it's done in 2 surveys. One is the Washington secondary, whatever, and the other one's Trestle Trail. All this has been done, and it explains all the historic sites they found and proposed or potential
Mhm.
national registry sites.
Right. right,
So,
right.
but I'd like to find and pinpoint them so that if people come to town, they would be able to see these places.
Mhm, mhm.
But I don't know what they're gonna do about the land trust property, because it wasn't done right. Because they talked about that at the meeting. Were you still there? Yeah, it was when the town solicitor was talking.
Right, yeah,
Yeah, so it wasn't done right. So technically they're listed as town properties, but they're supposed to be listed as land trust, something or other properties, protected properties or something, and it wasn't done that way. So how do they change it? That's what he's looking
Yeah,
into.
they're-
So it's another big mess.
mhm. So we need to keep a close eye on that
Yeah,
process, and
Yeah.
then you've got some things there that aren't on
there's also the
this.
quarry. There's also the quarry.
The quarry, yeah.
Which one, the Nipmuc?
No,
No.
Nipmuc's actually in Situate. The line's right
Yeah.
there.
I
Oh,
think
it's
it-
right behind my house.
Yeah, no, I know, but there's that, you know, that line comes right near your
Yeah,
house.
yeah,
and
yeah,
goes
my-
up
Ledge
through.
Road.
My
Because-
property line is Situate line.
It's Ledge
My-
Road.
Madison family people
Yep.
owned land on Nipmuc Road at one point.
Yeah,
Because my uncle ended up selling it, you know,
Foster.
long ago, but it
Foster.
was.
Horace
But that's
Foster.
right there, right on the line of
Yep.
Situate Coventry, but
Mhm.
Nipmuc Road is
Mm.
primarily. in
And the
Situate.
slabs are still there from when they
Yeah.
used to carve
I
out.
haven't got up there, but.
And there's
I
those
keep
stone
getting-
buildings that
Yep.
one's been turned into a house.
Because the Nipmuc stone was sought after, I forget why, whether it was the denseness or why, I forget.
A lot of the mills
Yeah,
were built
well-
from the stones from those quarries.
and they dragged them down a path right next to my house right there.
Yeah.
And you can tell there was a lot of heavy weight on that path because the path is maybe 3 feet into the ground.
Yeah.
Like you have to jump off the land
Yeah,
down
Into the
onto the,
path.
so.
But I mean, these are the few that, and to me, that came to my mind
Good.
first, but there are others that'll add to it. And then we can just,
I guess I need to get a giant map. We need to start.
well,
putting
and
pins on it.
pointing places, so if people are roaming around town,
Well, yeah, eventually that's
with
what.
an interest.
We can
But I
start
have
with
to have
that
something to
handwritten one that
build
we
it.
have, right?
yeah.
I mean, just to jot our thoughts down, the
Mhm.
handwritten one. I
Yep.
think you like to carry one around.
Yeah, I've got one, but I want to make a clear copy and so
Yeah.
we can start.
And we just
mapping it.
pinpoint more things on it and then professionalize it with.
Yep.
You were talking about, maps, downloadable maps and all that, so.
One of the things
We
I'd
can,
like to see is a
like Google
replica
Map.
of the Washington Station up where it used to be.
On
Built
the bike.
replica of the Washington Station.
Washington Train Depot?
Yeah. One of my ideas, I have many.
I think that promotional brochure with the self-guided tour map is
Yep.
really critical because that tells our whole story of the commission and the town and all the things we have to offer right there on one sheet of paper. So we probably should want to get something going as quickly as we can, and then we can always fine tune it and beautify it and all that later. But to get that
One thing,
forward on the site,
which,
For the clarity is, I'm sorry, or minute taker Heather. Is this section 5.1, is this the promotional brochure? The list that you've
well,
made?
it's on
Part of it.
here as new business.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, if she's wondering of what section to put this under.
What's under this here, it's under new business, he's brought it
Okay.
here.
So the list that you've been reviewing, that's under the promotional brochure one.
Yes,
Okay,
it's also gonna be on the website, but for the ease of clarification, just leave it under the
okay,
brochure.
just thinking, yeah, where's she gonna put it? Okay, thank you.
Well.
Because that list is gonna be multi-usage.
In that Menier map, I'm assuming. Things would be.
Yeah, Larry Meneers has
I'm
all
gonna
that.
try to find
house
a
info on it,
clear
that he
map that's
put with
at least to scale,
Locations of all those.
so that we can mark it and.
what about those Larry Menier maps that they're talking about on Sun? Remember we
They're
saw-
interactive, the way he's got it
Yeah.
set up.
You could start with,
We could eventually
Kind of
collaborate.
for
Link
that.
to
Well,
it.
there, yeah,
It's
because
his-
he's an expert with his
Yeah,
partner on this stuff to integrate it into the website, and he's
Mhm.
offered to do that, so.
Frank,
it would, yeah, might be a good occasion.
for
Does he have
$3.
that
Yeah,
posted
yeah.
somewhere? Paul?
He sent us the
Yeah,
link
we have the
multiple
link.
times.
He's kind
Sorry.
of waiting for us to get a hold of
It's up
him to
there
do
somewhere.
something with,
Okay.
really,
I'll have
you
to
know.
probably need to pull him in and the IT people and see what he did it in and how. And how that would translate onto.
They
Do
were
you need us
working
to
with
forward you the
GIS.
link? As I
I
think,
think I have
I
it
think you
somewhere, but.
emailed me, oh, no, Larry,
What?
Larry sent me an
Okay,
email
go ahead,
with the
send it to me.
links.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I'll take a look at it and I can talk to the
Yeah.
IT people. I mean, ideally, you'd like to have a map that has a click and each location would have a little
Mm.
drop down menu that shows you,
Mm.
you know, where it is, gives you the coordinates so that if you're
Yeah.
using
Well,
GPS,
that's-
you can plug it in.
you roll
Um,
over the points and
mhm.
it has a pop-up that tells
Mhm.
you some information on each of the,
Yep, ideally. But we'll see what he's done, how he's done it. Cause I don't think we have GPS locations on any of these things. And I don't think they have GIS maps anyway, do they? Just the town maps and have.
I think it's
You have to
just
go
the
to
land
the
trust
city.
that made it.
have to go to the big city governments for that.
Okay. Anything else on the list of projects? We can't talk about new business because it's quarter.
Oh, yeah.
You passed the time already.
But in a way, you know, you got some.
Okay,
We did
Some of
touch
it,
on it
yeah.
because Paul and I went to that national night out and we didn't have any materials to hand out. So
you gotta
we
have
need to put
stuff.
together some kind of materials, brochures, business cards,
Mhm.
stuff like that.
We'll give it good treatment at the next meeting
Yeah.
then.
We do have, someone here for public
Yes,
comment.
public
Yeah,
comment.
happy to have you.
Too late?
No,
No.
no. it's too
But
late
state
for
your
you.
name and your address so we can make. it
Peter
official.
Lockwood, 899 Hopkins Hollow Road in Green. In Hopkins Hollow. I have two things that I wanted to bring up quickly, and I know it's late. One is just kind of a segue to the mission statement. What brought me here was I was looking at Well, let me say first that I'm a trustee and one of the directors of the Hopkins Hollow Cemetery Corporation out in Hopkins Hollow, which is a sizable historical cemetery out there in Hopkins Hollow Church. It's a public cemetery, it's privately managed and has been that way for a long time. Anyway, so I was looking at some interactions we've had with the town. I was on the Conservation Commission for a number of years back in the 90s and early 2000s. So I know Kevin McGee, he was on the planning board at the time, and I was talking with him about various things. First of all, about perpetual care agreements. And so I looked at the board descriptions in the town website, and from your mission statement earlier, that identified preservation of historic cemeteries is almost like the mission statement of the Historic Preservation Commission. So that's what brought me here. And with two questions about cemeteries, public and private. So with the Hopkins Hollow Cemetery, we have perpetual care, and it's been that way for a number of years. And I know that this year, and from talking with Kevin, that the scope has changed to ensure that the perpetual care will occur on cemeteries before Memorial Day. So I think they reissued a scope for bids, a request for bids. Looking that over, the only thing that I saw in terms of regulating the execution of the work was that the grass will be mowed if it's more than 4 inches high. And then this year, I think it's new, from what I understand from talking with Kevin months ago, that it will be mowed in time for Memorial Day and November for Thanksgiving. So my question is, and because we're as part of the perpetual care agreement, is that what kind of performance standards is there, if there are any, for perpetual care of cemeteries in the town? I know that there's state level regulation and jurisdiction to avoid damage and things like that. But does the town have any further performance standards for, the successful contractor obviously has qualifications. I mean, that's identified in the request for proposals is, thou shalt say that you're qualified to do this and give examples of your experience. But
cemetery expert is not here tonight, Maureen, but she
okay.
would know a lot more about it, but I don't know of anything.
No, there isn't.
Yeah.
Our experience, we have some
DPW would be, I
gate
guess, one
damage,
who would
some
know.
fairly old
Years
gates that
ago.
were damaged, and we have some line trimmer damage, and I know that line trimmers are all the rage, and some of the stones just won't bear up to that over time.
Years ago, there was a cemetery keeper. I don't know what the title was, I don't
Yeah.
remember. And when he retired,
Commissioner.
yeah, it was done, and it was funded by the Isaac Fisk Fund, okay?
Which is now inactive,
Well, the money's gone because
Right.
it went other places, but
went into the general town fund. Yeah.
in 2009, yes.
Right,
I remember when that happened.
okay.
And at that time, they decided they didn't need the cemetery people anymore.
Mhm.
Whoever else was on it with him, I don't remember. And they were gonna put it under DPW, and it's been put under DPW, and it's here, there you have it.
No
Okay.
one watches it
No.
close enough.
Right, so a simple question, and I kind of suspected this, it doesn't appear that there are performance standards for
There aren't.
perpetual care more than if it's 4 inches mow it, and it better be mowed by Memorial Day.
At the state level, I would say there are, and Maureen could answer that question.
Yeah.
At the state,
In terms of protection.
yeah, but the state does, the town,
Okay,
it's now under DPW and they mow it when they.
okay, that's, I think we're, is managing the Hopkins Hollow
This is
Cemetery.
Maureen's card if you want to write down her info or take a picture of it.
I appreciate it. Right there, I'll take a picture.
She's the one who can answer those questions better
Yeah.
than.
Okay, I
Any
mean,
of
we,
us.
we are self-policing, I mean, looking, and we have a meeting coming up and I need to report to the general board, kind of finding out information on this.
So the town mows it. It's
Yes,
privately
it's
owned by the
perpetual
town.
care, so we entered into the perpetual care agreement with the town years ago, about 10 years ago, I think. And so that's
So that was after 2009.
The other question I had is regarding private cemeteries. So, Hopkins Hollow is a public cemetery that, but historic cemeteries contained completely on private land that may have deeded access to certain family members or otherwise, but otherwise are private. I know there's been some discussion in the last 5 years or so, and I think Charlie Vaca was part of this. He stopped by our place once to put some flags on the property and talk with them and so forth. And there are other private cemeteries that are enclosed with no access, no direct access. And his position seemed to be that they have access to all cemeteries in the town. And I disagreed with that. I know that there was some proposed, I think it was a town ordinance in the last 5 years to say that or something. Is anybody familiar with that or?
Not us.
No,
Okay, I thought this might be a source of,
no, well, because Maureen.
Maureen
was
were
there.
here,
might
she
have
could
been
tell you
there.
that.
She could fill you.
next
in on
month.
it.
Then.
No,
Yeah, she can answer those
I'll
questions.
give her a call.
Yeah, I would give her a
Yeah.
call. She's been on that commission for a long time. She's very involved.
Mhm.
Charlie Bach is very involved in all this stuff, but
Yeah.
Maureen's the one.
Maureen would know
Yeah.
more about the,
Cause she's
you
on
know,
the
the-
state level, he
Yeah.
isn't, so she's involved with the state.
And
level.
I
She probably
was
has a better.
involved.
and she lives
years
up
ago.
near you too,
Okay.
so about that. Like,
Back when John Sterling and Bill Edelman were doing the,
Mm.
writing the book, I went to tons of cemeteries with them and John.
Maureen's, so involved in it. I mean, she knows where most
Okay.
of the historic cemeteries are.
All right.
I've given her stuff from my grandfather's old research and everything too, with a lot of the other
Okay.
things now, but
She's
She
up
would
on all the
help you.
legislation and
Right.
everything
Right,
too.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
I don't know, I mean, I walk a
Private
lot of the
property.
local cemeteries just because we need to, like.
Right,
do it.
there's not a
And I
document
look
to
for-
use.
look at everything, it's,
But when they're in, on private, that's me, I don't feel like
Yeah,
I
no, I don't.
can go.
Right, and I think there's some misunderstanding about that at the local level, and there's, restoring cemeteries, whether it's Boy Scout projects or local weekend, people wanting to do a project is becoming more and more popular. So I think, and that's good,
Mhm.
if it's done in proper
Right, you just don't
ways.
go
It can be done by volunteers,
Yeah.
certainly, but access to private property is kind of an issue out our way, so I'm not trying to be provocative,
No,
but I
it's
did
tricky.
want to talk about, bring it
Yeah.
up. See if you guys have any.
Yeah, Maureen would be the one.
Okay, very good.
To talk to, too bad she's not here, but,
Well, thanks.
okay,
It's a neat connection.
yeah. Oh, good. Okay, right.
Hope you didn't mind me blurting out
No,
during
no, you know,
the
'cause-
official proceedings.
no,
I
that's
wish we
fine,
could answer
because,
your questions, but.
this whole process, we're learning as we go along.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
if you've already done the national registry.
Yeah.
We wanna hear what you have to say.
We did that, is, when you were talking about landmarks, it kind of made me remember that one reason we did, the way the Roaring Brook, the Hopkins Hollow Roaring Brook National Register Historic District, is that the brook itself, the word, it's actually a botanical term, in Manila form. It means like beads on a necklace, beads on a string.
Yeah.
Along Roaring Brook, there was a series of mills. And that kind of tied all of these, what they call contributing structures together.
Mhm.
You see what I mean? So
Yeah.
it wasn't an isolated, this is National Register, this is
Mhm.
National Register.
Right.
All of
As a
these in the older landscape
Mhm.
over different periods of time. I
Right.
mean, different centuries, there were mills. I mean.
But it tells a story, a unified story, and therefore could be part of a district.
Right, so thinking on a broader landscape, and this was a suggestion of Jenny Adams from Public Archaeology Labs, and I've known her for many years, and that was a very creative and a good, way to approach this qualification.
Mhm, mhm.
So every little thing doesn't have to be, you can't paint your house pink, there's not really that.
People get upset when you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it still allowed everything to be,
Mhm.
what can I say, qualified. And a certain nebulous level of protection, because like the bridge on Hopkins Hollow Road is a cobblestone arch bridge.
Mhm. that they talk
Would
about.
it qualify by itself? No, but as a contributed structure,
Mhm,
DOT
mhm.
needs to think twice before they can,
They can-
That's the section 106 review type stuff.
Yes, yeah, and that's very important, because right at the outset, when people vet certain projects, they'll see, ooh, historic district, well, we better behave ourselves.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
Anyway.
Hmm.
If
Okay.
that's a thought for.
No, that's great.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
districts, but Yeah. Sure.
Okay, anyone on the thing?
Nobody
I
there.
don't See any faces? It's just us, okay. We have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second
All in favor?
it. Aye.
All opposed? Okay,
7:55.
Thanks, yeah. Nice to meet you.
nice to meet all of you also too. It's nice when people come out of
Nice to know.